It's not really a long story. It's basically when I was 3, and this is my mom's story. And as you know, my mother has a way of, let's say, exaggerating the truth.
In the summer of 1980, Gwen's dad and I were heading back towards California from Maine. We made it as far as South Dakota, and we're in the Badlands on what turned out to be our wedding anniversary. So we celebrated the wedding anniversary just inside the Badlands National Park. And that was the beginning of Gwen.
I asked my dad about this recently, and I asked him what he remembers, and he says that all he really remembers is that I was born about 9 months after my family, or after he and my mom had been out here.
A few years later, we were living in West Stockbridge, and Gwen was sitting on this window seat, staring out the window and looking at some pictures that I had in a photo album from a cross-country trip I had taken with my sister.
There were some photos of the Badlands in South Dakota, which is where we are right now. And so I see these photos, and I'm just looking at these pictures with her, and I guess I pointed at them and I said, "Oh, I know that place. That's where I'm from."
She got really excited, and she's like, "Look, Mom, look, this is where I lived. Mom, this is where I'm from. This is where I live." So I went to see what all the fuss was about, and I was kind of shocked. She was pointing at a place that looked almost exactly like the place where she had been conceived.
I basically started to tell this story, and I don't know, this is where it gets confusing, because I don't know if my mom started pulling this story out of me, or if I just kind of came up with this on my own.
She started talking, and she talked about the life that she had there in her childhood, and how she had been a little boy named Golden Eagle.
Oh, and my name was Golden Eagle.
And that Golden Eagle loved it there, and that he was really, really happy, and everything was beautiful, and he had a great family. He was somehow very important in his community, and there were all these things that Golden Eagle was supposed to do, and people were counting on him to do. But when he was 12, the teepee in which he is living with his family caught fire. He was alone in it, and he couldn't get out, and he was killed. He was burned to death in the teepee. And Gwen knew all this, and she talked about it like it was just crystal clear.
So that was the story, and so my mother basically assumed that it meant that I was reincarnated from this Sioux Indian boy, and that somehow I had remembered part of this past. Who knows, maybe my parents somehow picked up some Indian spirits by accident on their trip out here. It's awe-inspiring, the geography here, it's gorgeous, but I'm kind of disappointed that I'm not having some sort of crazy moment. I'm not speaking in tongues or anything.